10 bad driving habits that will ruin your car. Resting your hand on the gear lever is a simple one, but a naughty one. In neutral, this is absolutely fine. But when you're on the move and you're in gear, what this will do is slowly wear out the selector fork that actually selects different gears. Obviously very, very bad, and will result in you needing a brand new transmission or a rebuild. It's a long day, you don't need it in your life. Resting your hand on the gear lever when you're in gear feels very natural. You normally have one arm rest here, you rest one arm there, you have one arm rest here, you rest one arm there, right? And then it just feels right to put your hand on the gear lever. It does. But it's really bad for your car. So what you want to do is you want to use your hand to change gear and then immediately release the gear lever. Change gear and just come off of that gear lever. I know it does feel wrong. You want to just rest your hand there. It feels right. This is how I unlearn to do this. I did a little hover. So I would just hover near the gear lever but not actually touch it. And this is the way I taught myself to stop doing this. It's really difficult. You want to put your hand on it, but you shouldn't. Change gear, let go. And then if you're like me, you can wave your hands around a ton. Or what you should do is just put the second hand on the steering wheel and give yourself some more control on the wheel. But change gear and let go. It's the right way to do it. I personally think that section deserves a subscription. It's free. Just saying. I always hear people saying, oh, England has really bad roads, they're terrible for potholes. I hear Americans saying X state has really bad potholes, Y state has really bad potholes. The Germans think they have really bad potholes, and everywhere else probably thinks they have really bad potholes too. Do you know what the truth is? The world has terrible roads and there's potholes everywhere. Potholes will delete your tyres, your wheels, and potentially your suspension components. Just avoid them. It's not that hard. Let me give you a demonstration. Now, avoiding potholes is the simplest thing to do that everybody should be doing. I don't understand why people don't. Like, going through a pothole is not nice. So why would you want to subject yourself to that? Potholes are where you'll crack tires. You'll just rip them to shreds. You'll crack wheels. If you hit one hard enough, you'll crack suspension components. Why would you want to? I don't understand. And it's not hard to go around them. Like, there's potholes on the inside here. I just don't go through them. If there's a pothole right in the track of where my wheels are, then I'll move my wheels out the way. I don't understand why people just choose to go straight through them. If it's a case of you're not noticing the potholes, then, like, open your eyes. The road is smooth and then it's not. Like, don't go through the part where it's not. See, look, there's potholes there. I'm just going to go around them. Like, why would I want to go through the pothole? And I don't want to hear any excuses about potholes, about people, oh, I didn't have enough space to avoid the pothole. This M2 is 1.93 meters wide. If I can be on this tiny country lane and still avoid the potholes, you in your normal car can absolutely avoid the potholes. Space is not the issue. Standing water is not your car's friend. A lot of cars from the early to mid 2000s were really bad for rust. The Japanese stuff would melt away. Even a lot of the German stuff, VW Golfs and stuff, everything would just rust. One fantastic way to accelerate your rate of rust and make sure your car's going to have a bad day is to drive through standing water. Now, there are times when this is unavoidable. In those situations, the best thing you can do is just drive really slowly through it. Don't create a big splash, because that gets water in places you don't want it. Keep your speed to a minimum so that there's minimum amounts of water getting flung into your wheel wells and getting places it shouldn't. But I see people that just think it's fun. Like, you just drive through a big puddle, make a big splash, ha 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 ha. You don't realize you're absolutely demolishing your car. You've got to give the car a fighting chance. Oftentimes, if the water's been standing a while, it's going to have mud and rubbish and salt and crap in it. You don't want that anywhere near your car, so just avoid it if you can. And if you can't, go slow. But secondly, standing water hides potholes. I've got a little story for you guys. It was last year, it was a Christmas party. My boss took us all in his A-Class Mercedes saloon thing to the venue. We were going down a country lane, not too dissimilar to this. There was a huge amount of water on one side of the road. He was going maybe 10 miles an hour. He decided to go through the water, went through the biggest pothole I've ever seen in my life, which was hidden under the water, cracked 2 wheels and ruined his whole day. Don't do that. Just avoid the water. You don't know what's under it. Even if there's nothing under it, the water's bad for your car. Just don't do it. It's long. It's not fun. You see me avoiding potholes there? Just avoid the potholes. Avoid the water. Basically, just avoid anything that isn't the road. I see a lot of people that think they're smarter than the manufacturers that made the cars that they're driving. No. 50 to 60 psi is not a good idea. All it will do is relocate the wear, and rather than the wear being spread over your entire tyre, it will just be spread over a tiny bit in the middle. Similarly to having really low pressures. A lot of people that are like car enthusiasts seem to think that lower pressures mean more grip. And to an extent they do, when you get the tyres hot. But if you're running around on the street in the middle of October, as it is now, on 22 psi, you're not giving your tyres a fighting chance. And you're going to get weird wear patterns, probably on the outsides of the tyre. It's a long day. Don't do it. Just trust your car manufacturer. There's a reason they specified what tyre pressure you should run. They haven't just plucked numbers out of thin air. It's a lot of maths based on the weight of the car and all sorts of stuff. And if you really want extra fuel economy or extra grip, go maybe 3 psi above or 3 psi below. That way you can tune your car to how you want it to drive and what you want to get out of it. But don't go plus 10 or plus 20 or minus 10 as some people do. It's pointless and it's just going to ruin your tyres. One of the leading destroyers of cars are drivers. Just not planning ahead. This is best described on the road, so let's jump into some POV and I'll show you it there. We're on a country lane right now where we're allowed to do the national speed limit of 60 miles an hour. And if I don't plan ahead on this road, I will have many crashes and bad experiences. There's what appears to be a very tight corner coming up, so I'm going to slow down and I'm going to select a good gear for the corner. I've never driven this road before, but I have confidence to drive fairly quickly because I'm reading the road and planning ahead for it. I slowed down to 50 there, and I was ready to stop with the whole junction situation that was going on because I'm planning ahead, I'm attempting to make up for other people's mistakes, and I'm trying to make room on the road. When I see these cyclists, I know someone might overtake them, so I gotta slow down. There's some debris. I'm planning to make space for other people who might come into these situations not expecting them, and I need to free up room for them. Some people watch the way I drive and they think I drive too quickly for the situation. What people forget is I'm in an M2, and at 60 miles an hour, you can watch this video where I've tested this. I can stop in 30 meters. That's before that tree now. I can stop incredibly quickly. This car's not only accelerates very quickly, but can also stop incredibly quickly. On these tight, narrow roads, I'm looking out for things that might make me have to have meeting situations with people coming the other way. I'm also looking at the elevation of the road. Right now, the road is tilting downwards, so I can get away with more engine braking, which gives me better fuel economy. There's just 101 things that you're constantly planning for. Honestly, driving is just planning. That's all you're doing, really, when you think about it. You're just looking over there and thinking like, oh, what's going to happen when I'm over there and how can I best deal with it? This one goes hand in hand with planning ahead. Engine braking. Once again, best demonstrated on the road, so let's get out there and I'll show you it. I think engine braking is bloody brilliant. It saves you fuel, it makes your drive more smooth. It's really, really useful. Everybody should engine brake. The problem people have is that they engine brake poorly. So let's quickly go through what engine braking is and what engine braking isn't, so we're on the same page before we start talking about this, because people get this wrong all the time. So the purpose of engine braking is to very simply be off the throttle while you're still in gear. Okay? So I'm in third gear right now. If I lift off of the throttle, I am now slowing down. That's engine braking. People overcomplicate it. They say, oh, you're in fourth, so if you shift down to third, that's now engine braking. Yes and no. Yes, it is, but also you don't have to shift. You literally just let go of the accelerator. Now I'm slowing down. That's engine braking. It's that simple. Now, what engine braking is not is using your clutch to slow down. That is disastrous for your car. Don't do it. So people think to engine brake, they would dip the clutch in, select third, release the clutch and let that slowing down be what slows them down. That's not correct. If you use your clutch to slow down, all you're doing is destroying your clutch. So maybe don't do that. Your clutch connects your engine to your transmission and lets the power flow through them to your wheels. Since it's connecting the two most expensive parts of your car, it's probably not a good idea to wear it out. Let me give you some practical demonstrations of ways people delete their clutches all the time. Another thing that will destroy your car is being rough with the clutch. Now, I, just like everyone else, like a little spirited drive. I like to drop a gear and drop another gear and drop another gear and roll into my throttle. That is fun. But what you have to do at all times, even when you're driving in such a manner, is you have to have in the back of your mind smoothness, gentleness, and finesse. So what does that mean? Well, mainly that means your left foot, which operates the clutch, needs to always be smooth and never be quick in such a way to jam the clutch and the flywheel together. It's not something you want to do, it's something you want to avoid. The best way I've figured out to do this is to just learn what's actually going on in the background. So if I understand what my left foot is actually doing when I press and release the pedal, I'm more likely to have mechanical sympathy. It's when I don't really understand what's going on that I'm not gentle, that I'm not smooth, that I don't care. I personally love the wiggle. When people get out of their car, they haven't used the parking brake, the whole car goes, whoa. I find it so funny because I just know in 10 years' time, they're going to need a new transmission. What happens when you put the car in park, and this is a gross oversimplification, but essentially there's a big rod that stops your transmission moving. It's not perfect, so there's a little bit of wiggle room, which is why your car does the little bounce. And what that does, that pin or that pole or that rod is getting worn down. And you know the worst part? To replace that requires the transmission to be removed and essentially rebuilt. Big bill, long day, avoid. And it's not hard. I know a lot of cars have electronic parking brakes now, which personally I find annoying. I used to like ripping a real e-brake, but it takes half a second, whether you've got a manual one or an electronic one. Just do it, protect your transmission. All right, this one might get me in trouble. A bad habit people have, especially in a manual car, they'll park, they'll use the handbrake, and then they'll put the car in first gear or reverse, depending on which way the car's pointing. Now, I get it. You want to give yourself a little bit of insurance. If you've got an older car and you have problems with your handbrake, you might have experienced it trying to escape down a hill. But there's a few issues with this. Number one, you could get in your car, or someone else could get in your car and start it while it's in gear. There's also the fact that while the car's parked, the transmission is engaged. And I don't think having the weight of the car against the transmission is a really good idea. Things will get worn and transmissions are not cheap to replace. So now, when you're parking, you have a choice. You can either leave the car in neutral with the handbrake up, or since I'm on a downhill, I can leave the car in reverse. Now I'm leaving the clutch engaged every time I'm parking the car. Is that a good idea? If my parking brake is not likely to fail, am I going to wear out some stuff here sooner because I'm trying to prevent a problem that isn't going to happen? I'm one of the losers that prefers to just leave it in neutral. I think long term this is a better proposition. Maybe it's just because I've never had a handbrake cable snap. And also these days we have electronic handbrakes, so we don't really have that problem. But I'd be very curious where you guys land on this issue. Let me know down in the comments. My name's Mick. I drive cars. Peace.